think we might have lost John in some technical difficulties. I might give him a couple more moments to see if he comes back. If not, then perhaps we'll have Jim present with his presentation, and then hopefully John can join us after. So I'm just going to give him one more moment to see if he comes back on, and then we'll have Jim on standby so he can do his presentation if we don't see John pop up. So just give us one moment, please. Hello, so I'm not seeing John pop up. So if Jim, I'll bring you up and maybe you can do your presentation, and then if John joins us after, then we can have him do his part. So give us one moment while we get Jim set up. Oh, hello.
Hello.
It looks like I can hear you, so we're go for you, I think, to present. So I'll let you go ahead with it.
Excellent, thank you. I'm just going to figure out how to share my screen here, and
no.
There we go. Have you got it now, Anna?
No, that's not it.
Not yet. So it should just be
not yet.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
Should have it now.
Yeah, I can see it. Perfect.
Excellent. There you go. Thank you, Anna, for this opportunity, and to HDAA for giving this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jim Garnett. My company, CTI Services, started doing inspections with landlords and property managers about 12 years ago. So anything I'm sharing with you today is experience that we've gathered over that 12 years. When we first started doing business in Ontario, one of the things that we became aware of right away is that landlords were really unsure about their availability or their legality in conducting inspections of their rental units. And we found that to be kind of strange. So we went to the Residential Tenancies Act, and under Section 27, subsection 4 of the Act, or subsection 1.4, I guess, it says that the landlords can enter a unit to carry out an inspection of the rental unit if the inspection is for the purpose of determining whether or not the rental unit is in a good state of repair and fit for habitation and complies with health, safety, housing, and maintenance standards consistent with the landlord's keyword obligations under subsections 20 sub 1 and section 161 of the Act. So that clearly told us that landlords not only should inspect, but they're obligated to inspect. And, you don't know what's going on inside your rental unit until you get in there. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to tell you here. We're going to talk to you about our mission, and our mission is derived from dealing with landlords, so it's going to be consistent probably with what a lot of landlords want. Who our team is, the key stakeholders in your real estate investment business, inspecting during COVID, and common issues impacting landlords. So our mission basically is to protect the assets of landlords through regular tenant inspections and to identify issues, deter criminal activity, and guarantee lease compliance. Basically, we're giving you that look behind the door to see what's going on in there. And this service that we're providing you can help you to regain valuable time through helping to protect your real estate assets, conducting regular inspections to deter and prevent criminal activity, keeping residents safe, secure, and in accordance with their lease, and supporting in difficult conversations and evictions of non-compliant tenants. So those things basically are the foundation of what we have for a business, and we suspect what a lot of landlords wish in terms of moving their business forward in a positive way. We use all retired policemen to do our inspections, and we do that because they have skill sets that are very amenable to the rental housing industry. In terms of inspections, they know how to observe and report, conduct interviews and serve documents, conduct stress move-outs. And by stress move-outs, we mean situations where the landlord is not comfortable going in and dealing with the tenant on a move-out, and that might be a property manager, or it could be an individual landlord. And they need someone there that has that calming influence who can step in the gap if things start to get out of hand. We give evidence at arbitrations and tribunals, and we help landlords in a multitude of other ways. Retired police officers have a way of looking at things through a little bit of a different lens. You might look at something and say, oh, that's an interesting tattoo. One of our guys might look at it and say, that's a gang tattoo. There are things like that that pop up that the average layperson may not pick up on. Our guys have been looking at those things for 30, 40 years, so they have a good handle on what they're looking at and the interpretation they're going to attach to that. Who are the key stakeholders in your rental housing business? And I don't care if you have 1 unit or if you have 101 units. There are certain key stakeholders who are involved with you, and it is a business. You need realtors, because realtors are going to help you to buy and sell properties. You need banks, because they're going to help you to finance those properties. You need insurers. Those insurers are going to insure your property to make sure that anything that does happen to it, your investment is protected. And for those landlords who choose not to look after the property themselves, they have property managers. These people all have a vested interest in your business succeeding. And of course, CTI Services, that's our goal, is to help your business succeed. Let's talk just for a second about inspecting during COVID. We all want to make sure that not only the landlords, the tenants, our inspectors are safe. And so in whatever jurisdiction we're in, we're following whatever the provincial health officers dictate for that area. So to reduce the risk of COVID transmission, we sanitize before we ever go into a property to look at it. And again, when we come out, we sanitize again. An easy way to draw to your tenants' attention the fact that you expect them to wear a mask is to quite often offer them one. So we say to people, oh, do you have a mask? Or would you like me to give you one? That sends a very clear message to them that you expect they're going to be safe and you're going to be safe while the inspection is taking place. And of course, maintaining physical distancing. Let's talk for a second about some industry trends and issues affecting the Canadian rental housing market today. Airbnb sublets. And a lot of these things that I'm going to mention to you, you have to think about this in two ways. You and the safety of your property, and as well as whether or not your insurance is valid, because most things are connected to your insurance. So Airbnb sublets if you rent your property to someone who you think you're signing a long-term lease with, and they decide that they're going to run an Airbnb out of your place, or the gentleman earlier were talking about the situation in Richmond Hill, a similar situation to that where you think you've got a couple living in the place and you've got 29 people living in there in all little cubby holes that they've developed. Your insurance may not be valid. Short-term leases and long-term leases are distinct in insurance policies, and they dictate if you're a long-term lease and you're being used as a short-term for Airbnb purposes, and your insurance doesn't cover that, then your insurance may be void. Criminal activity. If there's criminal activity going on in your place, not only does it put your place at risk, put your neighbors at risk, it also may put your insurance at risk depending on what the activity is. So if you're aware of criminal activity and you're not taking action, you need to do something about it. Hoarders, 2 to 6% of the population, according to the American Psychiatric Association, are hoarders. We have found that 2% holds strong right down the line. If you've got 100 units in your building, at least 2 of them are hoarders. That just goes without saying. They're there. It's a matter of you inspecting and finding the fact that they're there and then dealing with the situation. Misrepresentation. The other gentleman talked about this earlier from Rentify about misrepresentation. If you think you're renting to person A and it's actually person B living in the place, you need to know who's living in your rental unit. And the only way you're going to find out about those things is to get in behind the doors and inspect. Recently, Vancouver identified 11,000 units that were brought into the rental housing industry. Those rental housing units came from the absentee landlords who are now being taxed because their units were sitting empty. So those things are coming into place. Absentee taxes are coming in all across the country in different jurisdictions. And those regulations and those taxes are going to flush out some of the people that have been sitting with empty units that will bring them into the rental housing unit. Medical marijuana. Marijuana is legal now for people to grow 4 plants in their home. Medical marijuana, people can grow more than 4 plants if they are authorized by Health Canada. So if you don't want people growing marijuana in your home, talk to HDAA, get the language that you need to put in your tenancy agreements to make sure that no one is growing marijuana, whether it's the 4-plant minimum or whether it's medical marijuana in your unit. And I'm going to expand on that just a little bit. Currently, there are 200 commercial licensed medical marijuana producers in Canada. There are 34,000 permits to individuals to grow medical marijuana, and 11,000 of those are in Ontario. So permit holders living in rental housing properties are not required to ask permission from their landlord to grow medical marijuana. And you can go right to the application for medical marijuana, and it dictates in there, it specifically says you don't have to tell your landlord what you're doing. That's why it's very important that your language in your tenancy agreement stipulate what your expectations are around that. Now, there's 2 photos that you're looking at on the screen. Those are 2 sides of a backyard of a townhouse in Etobicoke. And those were taken in September of this year. There are 29 marijuana plants there altogether. Now, the first thing you have to think is, oh, well, it's above the 4-plant limit. This is illegal. We went to the Metropolitan Toronto Police, and we had them make an inquiry because they're the only people that can make those inquiries with Health Canada. And we learned from that inquiry, we sent them 2, one with 10 plants, one with 29 plants. The fellow with 10 plants did not have a medical marijuana permit, so his grow was illegal. The 29 plant one, the gentleman had a permit from Health Canada saying he could grow 29 plants outside. Listen very carefully, landlords. He also has a permit to grow 110 plants inside. So Health Canada has given him the authority to do that. They don't stipulate whether it's his own house or whether it's one that he rents. The other thing is, if you look at this townhouse complex, this is in the backyard of one of the units. How much of an impact is that going to have on the rest of the neighborhood? And just the smell alone, it can cause a huge problem. So you really have to look at that in terms of how you want that to play out, and make sure that your tenancy agreements have the language in it that's going to protect you from this type of thing. So Go Public, the CBC, made some observations a while ago saying that grow-ops have become popular because they're discreet. Small grow-ops have been found in the closets of high-rise apartments. So that just tells you just how prevalent those things are. And that came from Andrew McGrath, and he's the media relations guy at the Insurance Bureau of Canada. So you know that the insurance companies are looking at these things. And it doesn't matter about the size of the home or anything else. A grow can happen anywhere. And it's important for you as a landlord to be conducting inspections to make sure that your home isn't one of those. So here's how landlords can protect their investment a little bit in grow situations. Ensure that the tenant has a permit and is growing within its guidelines. Confirm the tenant's permit information with the police. So that's that second step I talked about, going to Metropolitan Toronto Police, having them check with Health Canada. Use the provisions of the Residential Tenancy Act. So if it's happening in your home or building or whatever you're renting out, and you want to deal with that, go to the Residential Tenancy Act and find provisions in there that can help you. And there are some in there, you just have to dig a little bit for them. And then not only who conducts your inspections, but conduct your inspections. And we tell landlords all the time, we don't care who's doing it. You have to have someone conducting inspections of your rental property. You need to know what's going on behind the doors. Otherwise, your investment is at risk. And that's a very important thing to understand moving forward. The insurance companies are becoming more and more stringent in terms of what they expect of you. And if you have an insurance policy for your rental property, somewhere in that policy it tells you how many times a year the insurance company expects that you, as part of your due diligence, will conduct inspections of your property. And if you're not doing that and you get called on it when you have a claim, they will expect to see reports of when the last time you were there. So the impact on insurance is real, okay? If you're doing things that present a problem with your insurance company, whether it's an Airbnb, whether it's hoarding, whether it's criminal activity or marijuana grow-ops, you don't want to put yourself in that position where you're at risk of losing your insurance or at risk of having your insurance not cover you. Here's what inspecting will bring to your attention. Breaches of material terms of the rental agreement, jeopardizing the lawful right of the landlord, and yes, landlords do have rights. It's not something that's apparent all the time, but going back to Section 27 of your Act, it's obvious. Landlords do have rights, and they do have responsibilities, and they're expected to carry out those responsibilities, and they have the right to do that. So putting the property at risk or extraordinary damage to the rental unit, those things will all come to light when you do inspections. And it's a matter of getting out there, doing those inspections, and getting the feedback from that. So here's a case study. This is a 90-unit building that we inspected in Toronto. You can see from the stats here, 60% of the units had leaky taps. The landlord's paying the water bill. Do you think the tenants cared? 46% had evidence of rodent infestation. Wasn't reported. 33% had extra appliances running. The tenants weren't paying the hydro bill. 3% were housing hoarders. Okay? 1% were sublets without a landlord permission. And 1% had severe damage to the unit. So tenants tend to underreport issues that cannot be identified without periodic inspections. we've always asked tenants in situations where we come across leaky taps and things like that, or rodent infestations, have you advised your landlord? And most of the time, the reply is, well, we haven't got around to telling him yet. They don't really care. It's not their investment. It's their home. It's not their investment. So if they think that telling you about something is going to increase your costs, and that your increase in cost will translate into an increase in rent for them, they sit on the information. So in this study, the landlord was able to take immediate corrective measures. So he hired a plumber and got them in there right away to fix the taps. He filed 5 applications with the landlord-tenant board. 2 of the hoarding units were rectified, and 90-day inspections were instituted as a result of 2 of those applications that were made. So it wasn't let's get these people out of here. It was let's see if we can get them to comply so that they can continue to live here and they won't be risking themselves or anybody else in the building based on their previous behavior. 3 of the tenants preemptively vacated the building. 1 was an unauthorized sublet. 1 was one that caused severe damage to the building and the unit. When I say severe damage, the front doors of the building were kicked in, the windows. And 1 hoarder. Okay? They just did not want to face the landlord-tenant board with respect to the issues that were being brought forward, and they chose to get out and leave. So people look at inspections and say, well, if I hire somebody to do it, it's just going to cost me more money. Well, there's 2 things that go with that. Number 1, it's a tax write-off. So don't be too concerned about taking the money out and spending it. Number 2, if you look at the bottom of the screen, those 3 units that were vacated by the tenants that preemptively moved, the landlord went in and painted them, cleaned them up, in some cases put new cabinets in, made the units much more attractive to the rental housing market, and increased his annual revenue by $18,600 just for those 3 units. So when you look at it in terms of an expense, it also can be a little bit of a gift horse if you get in and do your inspections and you're able to weed out problem areas that you have and deal with those. So that's a basic overview of who we are and what we're all about. Our contact information is on the screen. I usually have a few stories and things that I tell when I do these presentations. We're on a bit of a time constraint today, so if you'd like to hear some of those stories, or if you have questions after that you want to pose, and you don't want to do it online here, our contact information is there. Please give us a call. We're happy to answer any of your questions and help in any way that we can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jim, for that presentation. So we do have one question that I do want to ask you. So this particular landlord is looking to resume their yearly maintenance for HVAC and fire alarms, but they do have some tenants that are worried about the virus and it being carried from unit to unit. So what is something that they should be doing in order to do those year inspections while keeping in mind the COVID concerns?
Well, I think one of the things that we do is if we're going to send out a notice for those types of things, and specifically I have one landlord who it's a strata building, so it's all condominiums, and they all pay their maintenance fees. A lot of them are rentals, and the landlords get fined any time that the fire alarm people are come in to do their testing and they're not able to access a unit. So what this particular client has done, because they have several units in the building, is they contact us and say, will you line up your inspections for the same date and times that the fire inspectors are going to be there? So there's a better chance of the tenant being available. So the way we sell that to the tenants is we say, look, what we're going to try to do here is save a visit. So rather than you be available on 2 different days, we're going to have you be available on 1 day and get both of these things done at the same time. Because of COVID, we'll expect that you're going to be wearing a mask while we're in there doing it. our inspector is going to be wearing a mask. The fire safety people are going to be wearing masks. We're all going to social distance while we're doing this. So, with your cooperation, if you'd like, if you're not comfortable with us coming into the unit and you want to step outside while we do it, that's fine. But it has to get done in order for the building to be properly secured and in a lot of cases to validate the insurance for the owners. So this is a necessity that has to get done. We just need to find a way to work around it.
Okay, fair. Well, that was the only question we had. So I want to thank you again for presenting for us.
Our pleasure.
If anyone has any questions for Jim, I'm sure you can reach him directly. And now we'll pass it along to John to present. So we are a little bit behind, so hopefully everyone is okay staying. If not, we are recording the webinar, so everyone will get a recording after. So thank you, Jim. I will get John set up.
Thank you.
Hello, John.
Hi. I can see you okay, you're good.
Wonderful.
I'm going to share the screen.
Oh, I see.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I see your presentation.
Well, that's the cover page. So I'll continue and keep going here.
Wonderful. I'll let
So
you
the introduction, just a quick introduction. Well,
Hello?
hi, you're back.
I can still see it. I won't be on the screen the whole time you're presenting.
Okay. Can you see the slides then, or?
Yes, I can.
That's the cover, right? Okay.
Yep.
I'll just proceed
Wonderful.
then.
Wonderful.
So I'll go over quickly what I'll be presenting here. And I'm going to be talking about a bit about COVID and what we've done to support our customers. Extending our hours to 24/7 is necessary. Lots of people working from home, all types of hours and so on. We've increased the data security because of that, safe to safely work from home, and have added non-payment reasons relating to COVID, which I'll show you in a minute, and a new address telephone trace report that locates any debtors that owe you debts owing, so you can start a recovery case in small claims, and then some tips for screening and reading reports. So part one with the COVID-related non-payment. There's just been so many things going on with COVID that we thought, and we've had a few requests for this, so we've instituted a section now for reasons related to COVID that someone is in arrears. Someone who's been an excellent people and excellent tenants have gotten into trouble and not able to work and losing income and not paying and trying to do the best they can. So we've added some notes here. So when the reports are run, you'd be able to see a notice that it's a COVID-related non-payment. The address telephone trace is something that we are in partner with a large North American provider that provides this information to collection agencies usually, but we've got it now, and it's working very well to track down people that owe you debts. We have a typical flyer that we can send out to you if you prefer that, and explains a little bit about how it works and the cost and so on. You can also contact us at sales@rentcheck and speak to Brenda. She'll be, that's extension 221. She'll be able to help you with all that too. With screening tips, we're just going to go generally through what you should receive with a rental application form, and make sure that the form itself has consent compliant language and supporting documents that you'll need throughout, and make sure that you verify employment and income and residency and phone numbers and so on. The privacy compliant application allows you, with the consent that we provide, allows you to report any tenancy experiences you have, and this is kept on file for your protection. The driver's license is a very good supporting document. It spells out a lot of information like date of birth. The last 6 numbers on the driver's license number is actually the date of birth of the person. So when you're looking at a rental application, you can compare to make sure that you're getting a good date of birth just by looking at a driver's license. And a lot of provinces now issue a standard identity card in case there's no driver's license, so that'll help too. Other documents used are birth certificates, landed immigrant card, a passport, social insurance number, only if volunteered though. And the tip we have here is that having 2 photo ID documents allows you to compare both photos and also the applicant's in-person appearance. Employment verification is very important. And employers will provide a letter of employment, and also with RentCheck's new background screening, it has a deep verification of employment, describing all the as well as education that's involved, and all the history of employers that may have existed with this person. Residences, again, you can compare your rental application to the driver's license address, and that helps a lot. The applicants with phone numbers that match on the rental application is an accurate measure of if they're giving the good information to you. It's important for credit file searching. Next, with reading reports, once you've decided that you need a report, we have this is page 1 of our report, which can extend 12, 13 pages, but page 1 is kind of a summary where you can quickly click on little view buttons here. This is a Google News search. There's a geo search of the address, the current address that people are giving you, and you can actually see the property. There have been problems in these areas. And then below, you can see the Equifax and TransUnion. In this case, everything's clear. There's a credit utilization that tells you how much of their credit they've used. So if they have a balance, say a credit limit of $10,000, and the credit utilization is 100%, that means they've used it all. So there's no leeway for making things right when something goes off the tracks there. So, and on the rental side, what we are endeavoring to do is decide with our data whether someone is a good tenant or not. So there could be rental history there. Lease alert means that they've rented from one of your other properties, and we have the history of that. And then the evict alert means that there's an eviction coming up. So there's, I'm skimming over a lot of this information, but generally reading a report, a multi-credit bureau report like this, takes a full session of training. So, but these are some of the major things to look for. And in the circle here, you'll see the outer circle is the rent check scoring aspect on the left here, and then TransUnion being the blue and Equifax the red. You can quickly see, and with their respective scores, you can quickly see, what this person's summary situation is with the score, looking at them as a tenant. When you're, what I've quickly showed you was a full bureau, which means all three, the two credit bureaus and rent checks reports involved in that type of full bureau report. And so it's a premium credit report with full files. And so you can make a decision whether you want to just get a short file report. And if you're relying more on the credit scoring and the credit standing and recommendations, then a short report might be better for you rather than having to read everything. But a lot of folks do like the in-depth detail and looking at that too. As well as the reports, there's custom enhancements course. You can add the scoring, credit scoring to the credit reports, fraud detection and bankruptcy prediction. On the rent checks report, you can add rent to income ratios. So we provide you a way of entering somebody's expenses and the rent amount, and then you can see what the ratios are. On top of that, we have provided a Google News search and a Google Geo search so that you can quickly look at, are there any media articles on this person, and what the and if there's news stories are sometimes very graphic repeat offenders who have done such a terrible job to the landlords that they warrant a front page of the Star, for instance. Here's I'll just give you a quick sample of these. In Regina, this type of thing shows up on CBC News, in fact. So we are scanning with a Google News search. We're scanning several hundred sources of information for you. And if something comes up, which is not generally, may not be on a credit report or on our report, and because the landlord hasn't reported it and so on, you can see it here. Here's another example in Toronto where this particular tenant, Jesse Gubb, in fact, in the Toronto Life magazine was written up, and who defrauded many landlords in Toronto for over $2 million, and is currently incarcerated. And so these types of stories may not, with a Google News search, you may be able to see immediately that you've got a problem tenant applying. With the Google Geo search, it's the address that's the key here. And with their, in this case, this was a current address that ended up being an empty field in Calgary, so that someone's trying to hide something and giving you fake addresses. Now you'll be able to see each one automatically. This pops up for you. I think we've done a lot of talking about problems, but when we look at with the 4.5 million renters that we have on our database, it's afforded us quite a view and definite pattern that shows up, so that the rental history, when you combine it with credit history, in this case, you can see that it could increase the credit score, which is very low. A 529 credit score here is a poor score, but by adding somebody's rent score of 780 to it, it's increased it to 655. So it's really jumped up. Now, this certainly helps creditors. So if the renter is applying for loans, and so on, and their financial standing, this certainly would help that. But it doesn't tell you whether they're a good tenant or not. The credit, so adding this information to a credit score or a credit report will only increase or decrease, in the rare case, a credit score. But as far as knowing if they're a good tenant or not, the separate rent score of 780 is telling you the tenant worthiness of the person versus the credit worthiness. And we believe that you need both of these reports to be separate, so that when you're looking at a rental history report, you can look at the history from other landlords, how they paid with everybody else, and know that they have a good history. Whereas looking at if you were to look at the credit report where you're combining these two and getting a score of 655, you're losing out the view that the tenant worthiness is really 780. So all you would see on the credit report would be a score of 655. But what you're really looking at is a great tenant with poor credit. So we absolutely believe that the rental history and special credit bureau reports for landlords are most important to identify whether you're getting a good tenant or not. There's a lot more that goes into it than just paying the rent. So it's something that we're very adamant about. And so we provide this information, and now we're getting a lot of interest from the financial folks and insurance as well, that they do want to combine this for the benefit of the renters, who will take that to the bank and be able to improve their information to decrease interest rates, or even qualify for financial products that they couldn't before. So I hope I've covered generally a lot of things that you might be thinking of. If not, any questions, just let me know. Thank you very much, Anna.
Hello, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation.
Sure.
It's a really good point about the credit versus rental history. I think a lot of people might deal with life situations that affect their credit, but that doesn't mean that they're not bad renters. It's just something that happened in their lifetime, and that they couldn't avoid potentially. And I think a lot of people pass on tenants just because of that credit piece. So that was a great point, actually. So there are just a couple quick questions. So in regards to the telephone tracing, is that just landlines, or is that cell phones as well that you can track?
It's a product that collection agencies use quite a bit, but it's, it would be the information that you may have on someone who has disappeared on you and owing you debts, or even if you've been through a legal process and this person has owes you money and they're not paying, but it's mostly used when people skip out and you can't find them. So it's worked. We have some large landlords using it, and they're finding it very, very helpful where they couldn't. It's amazing what some of this information on the data, of course, is based on credit information from someone's past. So if you're trying to collect, you may be able. We've seen information about relatives pop up, so you can contact relatives. It's like a collection windfall there, because there's no other tool that offers this type of in-depth search. So it's quite handy and could save you a lot of money and time.
Yeah, certainly. And then the other question that I did have, would RentCheck also have access to criminal reports for individuals?
Sorry, I missed that. You're getting volumes a little too.
Oh, sorry. I'll speak a little louder.
Thanks.
So the other question was just whether RentCheck would also have access to criminal reports for individuals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, criminal. Yes, we do. And we recommend and supply a combined package, which includes both a CPIC, National Criminal Records Check, and an enhanced criminal records check, with a turnaround time of about 4 to 5 business hours. So a quick summary of the National Criminal Records Check. It's the most comprehensive search, and it's national across Canada, of course, obtained through the Canadian Police Information Centre, the CPIC. And includes criminal convictions for which a pardon has not been issued yet. It's conditional and absolute discharges, which have not been removed from the CPIC system. All searches require a specific signed and witnessed consent form, of course, and copies of 2 valid photo IDs for criminal searches. The results return a clear or not clear status in accordance with current RCMP directives. The enhanced criminal check is in addition to all of that. It searches for outstanding entries such as charges or wanted person information. It searches for non-convictions and reviews of all available police contact information, including theft, weapons, sex offenses, or violent, harmful, and threatening behavior. So it's a very comprehensive criminal search. Although provincial criminal reports are also available, but we don't recommend them because they are only available for that province. So if someone has resided in another province and has had issues there, you would not see that. You would only see whatever's taken place in that province. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to us to do a provincial and rather than do a full national. And then you get the full picture right across the country. So for that reason, we don't recommend the provincial criminal record search. Yeah, so we also add a bit of a service to it. That's why it takes a little longer. In that we compare the information we're getting, the photocopies of the IDs and so on, to the actual information being completed on the CPIC form to make sure that our customer is getting the accurate information. Occasionally, when those are not in sync, we return this to the customer to get the accurate information, because if it went through, the search, that's the CPIC search, would not even take place, and it would be a waste of time and money. So we kind of provided as a reports kind of like software with a service idea. So yeah, it's not a fully like online criminal check. So
Okay.
we review it. We review the documents before we send them on. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And I
Yeah.
guess the caveat
Okay.
with, as far as my understanding goes with criminal records, is you just need to make sure you're not being discriminatory of who you're asking criminal records. If it's something that's on your application for everyone, then that's fine, but you can't individually pick people to have criminal records taken. It has to be across your application process, across the board, in a sense, I believe. Is that correct?
I'm trying to get the better sound here.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just
Yes.
saying that usually if you're doing a criminal records check, it should be something that's across the board for your application process. You can't be necessarily picking and choosing who you do a criminal report again or for in particular.
A summary report?
Just for criminal records, it should be something across the board of your application process, not just particular applicants.
Yeah, you're asking whether there's summary reports available?
Oh no, it's okay. We can. It's just a point that I'm trying to make about whether or not you can, just making sure you're not discriminatory against who you're choosing to do criminal records on. But I think that's all the questions I have for you. So I'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. So I did want to send a very big thank you to our presenters, Chad, Greg, Jim, and John, for presenting at this webinar. It's very much appreciated. If there are any follow-up questions, please send them either to myself or you can email the presenters directly for questions. And then that should
Excellent.
be it. So I'll wrap it up. And thank you, everyone, for attending the webinar. We look forward to having you back for future webinars. And there will be recording that will be sent out afterwards as well.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And thank you very much, too. It's been a great experience.
Wonderful. Thank you, John.
Excellent. Have a good day.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye now.